That bottle of Scotch standing in your liquor cabinet or the one your bartender just poured from might not be what the label says it is. Forensic scientists have found that nearly a third of rare Scotch whiskey tested on the secondary market is fake, and in the US, bars and restaurants have actually been caught refilling premium bottles with rubbing alcohol and pouring it as the real thing. Here are 8 Scotch brands sold across America you need to know about, and the one economic reality that makes every single one of them vulnerable. Johnnie Walker. In New Jersey, investigators raided nearly 30 bars and restaurants and found bottles labeled Johnnie Walker Black that had actually been refilled with cheap, caramel-colored rubbing alcohol. That brand is Johnnie Walker. It's been the world's best-selling Scotch since the 1800s, built entirely on the promise of consistency, bottle after bottle, decade after decade. In 2013, New Jersey's Operation Swill investigation accused dozens of establishments of substituting liquor in premium bottles, and a customer later sued TGI Fridays over the practice. Separately, the UK Food Standards Agency issued a public health warning after counterfeit Johnnie Walker Black Label bottles turned up contaminated with methanol, a chemical that can cause blindness. You pay the premium price expecting the premium product. What actually hits your glass could be industrial-grade alcohol never meant for drinking, and methanol poisoning doesn't announce itself right away. It can take hours to show up as blurred vision. And Johnnie Walker isn't even the brand counterfeiters target the most. Chivas Regal. In India, police busted a gang refilling empty Chivas Regal bottles with a locally made ersatz whiskey resealed with caps imported from China. That brand is Chivas Regal. It built its reputation as the luxury blend, marketed since the 1900s as the whiskey for people who'd made it. Investigators found the operation had been supplying retailers who then sold the fake bottles to unsuspecting customers as genuine, one of many such rackets uncovered across Asia, where Brown-Forman has estimated roughly 30% of liquor sold is counterfeit. That premium price tag isn't a guarantee of what's actually inside the glass. The more expensive and more collectible the bottle, the worse this problem gets. The Glenlivet. Police in Ludhiana, India, raided a bottling operation and seized more than 100 empty bottles prepped for refilling, dozens of them branded Glenlivet. That brand is the Glenlivet. It built its name as one of the first legally licensed distilleries in Scotland, a symbol of going straight after generations of illicit stills. Forensic testing by the Scottish University's Environmental Research Centre found that roughly a third of rare, collectible Scotch whiskies tested were not what their labels claimed, and in some categories the fake rate hit 100%. A whiskey built on a story of legitimacy has become one of the most imitated names on the counterfeit market. It isn't the only heritage brand getting the refill treatment. Glenfiddich. In that same Indian refilling racket, empty Glenfiddich bottles turned up alongside Johnnie Walker and Glenlivet, waiting to be filled with domestic ersatz whiskey and shipped back out to retailers. That brand is Glenfiddich. It markets itself as the world's most awarded single malt. Family-owned, a stag on every label since 1887. Investigators found the fake whiskey had been topped with new stoppers and caps imported specifically to mimic the originals, making the counterfeits difficult for retailers, let alone drinkers, to catch. The bottle in your hand can carry every award sticker in the world and still not contain a drop of what you paid for. Even the most decorated label on the shelf isn't immune. Dewar's. In 2025, Scotland's Environmental Agency confirmed a mechanical failure at a Dewar's blending site sent whiskey worth roughly £200,000 straight into Glasgow's River Clyde. That brand is Dewar's. It has marketed itself since the 1800s as the Scotch that put Scotland on the American table, once gifted to a sitting US president. Bacardi-owned Dewars initially denied any discharge happened at all, then confirmed a mechanical fault only after the Scottish Environment Protection Agency was formally notified. A brand that spent a century selling trust took days to admit what actually happened inside its own plant. Accidents aside, Dewars has a longer-running problem with its own identity. Clan McGregor. Clan McGregor routinely lands at the bottom of nearly every blind blended Scotch taste test published in the last decade. That brand is Clan McGregor. It markets itself with tartan branding and a clan name meant to evoke Highland heritage, despite being one of the cheapest blended scotches sold in American liquor stores. Reviewers consistently describe it as harsh, thin, and medicinal, grouped with other bottom-shelf blends built to hit a price point instead of a flavor. That's because bottom-shelf blended Scotch is made almost entirely from cheap, flavorless grain whiskey with just enough malt stirred in to legally qualify as Scotch at all. That same economics problem runs through nearly every bottle on this list, not just the cheap ones. J&B Rare carries one of the highest grain-to-malt ratios of any major blended Scotch on American shelves, and whiskey writers have long noted its color comes almost entirely from added caramel coloring, not cask aging. That brand is J&B. It built its American identity through decades of Hollywood product placement, a fixture in bar scenes long before drinkers questioned the glass. Caramel coloring, listed on ingredient sheets as E150A, is legal and widely used across the industry to standardize color between batches, but it means the shade in your glass tells you nothing about how long the whiskey actually aged. You're judging a whiskey's maturity by its color, and that color can be manufactured in a vat, not a barrel. It's a cosmetic trick the whole industry leans on, and almost nobody advertises it. Cutty Sark. Cutty Sark wasn't just sold in America, it was smuggled into America, deliberately created in 1923 to be run past Prohibition agents by the rum runner Bill McCoy. Berry Brothers and Rudd built it deliberately pale and light-flavored so it could pass as tea to suspicious eyes, designing a Scotch around the specific goal of getting past the law. McCoy's reputation for never cutting his liquor with anything is where the phrase "the real McCoy" comes from. And by the time Prohibition ended in 1933, the brand smuggled into the country had already built a loyal American following it never lost. The bottle, now sitting legally on your grocery store shelf, spent its first decade as literal contraband. The most storied name on this list started out running from the law, and the cheapest one is still getting refilled by criminals today. None of these 8 brands are outliers. They're the industry. Scotch is one of the most counterfeited spirits on earth because the margin between a real bottle and a fake one can run into hundreds of dollars, and almost nothing at the point of sale forces anyone to prove what's actually inside the glass. Add in caramel coloring standing in for real aging, mass-market grain whiskey blends dressed up in Highland branding, and refilling rackets operating on nearly every continent, and the entire mid-shelf Scotch category runs on trust that almost nobody is actually verifying. The most trusted name in Scotch was born a bootlegger's product, and the cheapest bottle on the shelf is still built the same way bootleg liquor always was: cut, colored, and sold on a story. Before your next pour, check the seal. It should be factory tight, not re-glued. Check the fill level against another bottle of the same brand. Uneven levels mean someone opened it before you did. And buy from a licensed retailer, not an online marketplace or an unverified auction site, because that's where almost every refilled bottle on this list ends up for sale. If the price looks too good for the label on the bottle, that gap is usually exactly where the fraud is hiding.